All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks officially for joining us today to talk a little bit about internships and some early deadlines. So just some quick introductions if you haven't attended one of our sessions before. My name is Lauren Berryhill. I'm the Director of Career Services and Professional Development here at LBJ. I've been around about 6 years, so I really love helping students find internships, jobs, and just supporting students along their career journey here at LBJ. I'll turn it to Jeremy just for a quick introduction.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Howell. I'm the assistant director. I just started at LBJ this summer, but I've been around on campus for about 9 years and 6 years in career services. I'm excited to work with everyone starting this fall, and now I'll pass it to AC.
Hi everyone, I'm AC Conwell. I'm a career resource specialist. I will be 2 years at the LBJ school this October. And yeah, I'm just here to kind of help my two bosses get the information out to you guys.
Yay. Well, today, just some goals for this session. We want to talk a little bit about the general internship requirements, just so you have a good understanding going into your first semester. We want to talk about some opportunities that have pretty early hiring timelines and deadlines just to get them on your radar now. And then just preview some more career events that will happen this fall to support you. So, this session today, we can make it super conversational. So it's a fairly small group. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. That's the easiest way for us to see if you have a question, or go off mute and we can chat. And then we'll also have some time at the end for any questions. And then lastly, we are available the rest of the summer and into the fall to meet with you individually if you will have a scenario, an interest, a question that's super individualized. We are accessible and can schedule a time to meet with you. So just thinking big picture with the internship requirements, it is something that is required for you to graduate. There are some criteria for it, but a lot of it is very flexible depending on your interests, your needs, and your timeline. So the requirements, the first one is that we want to look for you to hit that 300-hour minimum. Now, one thing to note there is that you do not have to hit all 300 hours at one opportunity. Most people do. It is most common for students to intern over the summer between their first and second years, work pretty much full time that summer, and easily get to that 300-hour requirement. Some students work part-time over the summer and an internship trickles into one of the main semesters or works part-time for multiple semesters at a time. So you can work with a couple different organizations to combine to meet that, or just one. That is really dependent on the amount of time you have to devote to the internship. The other thing that we look for when approving an internship is that it needs to have a public policy, public affairs, or public management focus to it. Those are pretty broad, right? Because students have very different interests, even just within the policy world. So we want it to be something that aligns with your career interests, but also that complements what you're learning in the classroom. For those of you MGPS students, an additional requirement for you all is that it needs to have some sort of global or international focus. That does not mean that your internship has to be abroad, right? Some people do go abroad, that's totally fine, but it can be something locally or in the US as long as it's working on policy-related items that have a global focus. For MPAF students, there are a couple of prerequisite courses that you'll need to take before meeting the internship requirements. That's on an internship approval form. You can find it on the LBJ website if you wanted to look at it, but we don't have to get that in the weeds right now on all of that. There's plenty of time for it. But with that form, we would want you to fill it out after you receive an offer. You attach the offer letter, you give us some information just detailing the opportunity, and then we approve it. So that's a little bit about the requirements. Some other things to think about just high level right now. When you're completing your internship and filling out the approval form, you're given two options. You can take the internship for academic credit or for administrative credit. Academic credit is what you think. You are enrolled in a 3-hour internship course. There's no action items or work for the course, but it is an elective course that counts toward your program of work. You do have to pay tuition on it. And it does, if you don't have a lot of electives, that would count as one. The other way is to take it for administrative credit. That doesn't have anything to do with a course. That is simply just checking a box in your internal system that would eventually be reviewed for graduation. So 2 different ways you can get credit. One is tied to a course, but just keep in mind there's tuition. And one of them is just more administrative, saying that you have met this requirement. Another thing to think about is that we do have a waiver option available for students, but we're really looking for substantial policy experience before LBJ. If you do think that you align with that, I recommend meeting with me ahead of time, and we can kind of talk through and ensure that you're a good candidate for that waiver, and then there is a separate form for that. But just note, for the internship waiver, you do have to complete that form within your first year of being an LBJ student. So it's very rare that students waive an internship, and I'm happy to talk offline if that's something that you wanted to explore. And the last thing I want to talk about, just high level, to keep in mind is that we have internship fellowships available for students. It is something that you apply for after you receive your internship approval form completed. It's linked on that form. And it's something that our fellowships office reviews. You create a budget and tell our fellowship office a little bit of information about yourself and about your internship. And it is available for students if your internship is unpaid, which hopefully, we want you to get paid in the internship. Even if your internship is paid, you are still eligible to apply for internship fellowship funding. So that's a question or a misconception that a lot of students think is it's only for unpaid internships, and that's not the case. It is still available to supplement if your internship is maybe underpaid, or you're having, to move and relocate for the summer. That can help with some of those expenses. I'm just going to pause there and see if there's any questions before we delve into a little bit more specific early internship opportunities. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Hopefully that's a good sign. So what I want to do next is transition to thinking about some of the opportunities that come pretty quickly. It's a lot. Y'all are transitioning into graduate school and you're like, wow, I didn't think I'd have to think about an internship until this summer. Sometimes that's the case, not totally applying until this spring semester. But what we want to do is talk today a little bit about the typical timeline, some of the more expedited timelines, and then what opportunities might align with that. So typically over the fall semester, I would recommend that you all start exploring different career paths, thinking about what policy areas you're interested in. A lot of students come to LBJ and discover new areas of interest that they didn't even know existed, right? So giving yourself some time to explore, think through what organizations might align with your interest and your skills, starting to network and make connections with folks, do some informational interviews, all of that in the fall semester. And then this spring semester, really making sure that your documents are in a good place, your resume and cover letter are good, ready to tailor to opportunities. And then that February through May timeframe is when a ton of internship applications become available and deadlines happen. That's typical, right? There's lots of variance there. But if I had to kind of put together just a very standard timeline, that's what it would be. And then thinking early hiring timeline would be right now, really networking, identifying what organizations you want to apply for, getting your documents ready, meeting with folks that might be helpful, and starting to apply starting in August, September, October for some of these opportunities. So it's very much expedited when we're telling you all of this now, because if there's any of the opportunities that we talk about today, if you're even remotely interested in them, it might be worth taking some time to think about, meet with folks, and apply so that you're not automatically taken out of the runnings if you decide later on in the semester or the year that you want to do something, but the timeline has already passed. So that is a very, very high level. And I see there's a question from Omar. So I'll pause and see what you have.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. I did want to circle back to something you guys were talking about in reference to meeting the internship requirements.
Yeah.
Could a current internship that we have over the summer right now that extends into like the fall, could that also count towards that requirement?
So it would depend your program, and it would depend on the internship and how long you're doing it. If it's empath, there are some prerequisites, but MGPS, there's not as much, so we could see if that aligns. So that could be like an individualized case.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. I see there's a question about it being on YouTube. Yep, we're recording. Any other questions? All right. If not, I'm going to turn it to AC. The 3 early hiring timelines we're going to talk about today are federal internships, private sector consulting type internships, and then legislative internships. Since we're going into a legislative session, we already have opportunities posted for you all. So AC, over to you.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to be talking about federal internships, some of the best practices. Again, best practice when it comes to searching for these opportunities, getting your resume started for these opportunities. And again, this is a high level, broad idea of everything. We are 100% open and welcome to having one-on-ones to dig deeper into some of these topics, but we just obviously want to put it on your radar going into the school year. So big overview, there are many opportunities that y'all have advantages that y'all can take advantage of when it comes to federal careers. Some of those opportunities include working for the State Department, the Governmental Accountability Office, Department of Defense, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and many more. Some of you might have national security interests, and so we do have the Clements Center that we work closely with. Obviously, they have their own very specific curated list for NatSec and all those kinds of internships, but we just want to make sure that you all are finding the ones that are interest to you, and we're putting them on your radar because, like we said, these are early deadline situations, and so there are many departments that our LBJ students work for. It's just a matter of finding the right one for you at the right time. So there is the USA Job Boards and the Intelligence Community Job Board. Many departments have their own site, have their own HR, right? That's just how it would work. But this way kind of puts all of these internships in one place and jobs in one place. So it makes it easier for you to go look for them. USA Jobs is a fantastic place to start with, to look at. We talk to students about using that portal as well, but the IC job board is a completely separate situation because the intelligence community has different standards. They all have like the same base as far as going through security clearance and things like that, but the IC community is very specific in what they look for and what they need, and so they have a completely separate job board as well. The slide deck will be made available to you so you can click on the hyperlinks that are going to be there, but these are 2 of the biggest job boards that you're going to be looking at when it comes to federal and intelligence internships coming up. I wanted to spend just 2 seconds, really obviously longer than 2, talking about the board, the USA Jobs Board. One of the biggest thing about the USA Job Board is that sometimes it can be confusing to look at. One of the first things you want to make sure you're aware of is the summary. Obviously, this is for a job, not an internship, but you want to look at the summary, who the job is open to, and the requirements. The overview on the side, it's going to tell you how long that posting is available. As you see, for just this job alone, it's only open 27 days. And sometimes it's not even open the full 27. It's open to until they hit a certain number of applicants, right? So we just want to make sure that we're showing you guys how to look at this site. It's going to look like a lot of information. Please come make one-on-one appointments with us, but this is like the big thing we want you to be able to see and look at. So some of the federal events, not ran by us, but federal events that they have to help you understand the federal application process, interviewing, things of that nature. There are 2 events right now, not right now, that are gonna come up in the next couple weeks, hosted by different departments of the federal government. One of them being the HR department, and the other one being the Human Health and Services Department, navigating the federal application process and then interview techniques. Because what we want y'all to understand is that please come to us. We will help you with resumes. We're going to help you, make sure that you're standing out, but also the federal government wants more people. It is notoriously known that there are not a lot of young people within the federal government. There's a large percentage that will eventually retire at the same time. So they want to have more young people and more people with fresh ideas involved. So they are always holding different workshops for y'all to be involved in. One of the biggest reviews, this specific screenshot is from USA Jobs. Please, please, please come have a one-on-one appointment with us about your federal resume to help you refine it, really get the document together. But some of the biggest overview that I would love to give you guys is that, one, a federal resume is usually 3 pages and up because of what they're looking for. So if it's only 2 pages, it's not that it's bad, it's just I might be asking you, is there more information that you are missing or something else that we can include on this? The best step forward in creating that federal resume is to use USA Jobs Resume Builder. Now, we are not saying that that is the best resume that you're going to get out of that tool, but it is a great foundation and a great start to make sure that we are on the right path in getting this document to look exactly the way it looks. Jeremy and I have been through a federal advising program, so we have different tips and tricks that go with making sure your resume looks great and it sticks out. But yeah, we just want to make sure that you are aware that USA Jobs does have a tool for at least for you to get started on making that federal resume, because it is annoying and cumbersome at times. The security clearance that is required for IC jobs, federal jobs. Obviously, certain levels of federal jobs may not have as in detailed of background checks, but the security clearance as a whole for most federal internships and jobs is for the following year. The reason why the security clearance takes so long is because it only starts after you get your conditional letter of employment and they're going through everything that you gave them. It is not necessarily to quote unquote catch you in some lie. They don't want you to not apply. They just want you to be honest. They want to double check all the information. And again, some of you might apply for federal internships where having a high security clearance is not the most important. So you might not go through a security clearance process in a long span, but we have seen students go up to 9 months to a year because they're applying for something super high level. So it just takes time, and to be aware of that. And that's more so why federal jobs have an early timeline, is because of that clearance process that happens after. So like Lauren already said, and I'm going to say it again, and Jeremy might say it again, if you have even an inkling of this as an interest, please, please, please just get the documents together and let's just apply, because you can decide later that you don't care about it. But it's worse if you decide later you care and then you can't do it for the summer and you can't do it for the following year. So we just really want y'all to be aware of how long the security clearance process can really take. One of the biggest things that the LBJ school is going to be partnering on, along with the Clements Center and other institutions at UT campus, is the National Security Career Fair that is happening September 9th. These are just, I'm not going to read all of them to you because God knows you don't need to hear any more of my voice. But this is just some of the companies that we do have in attendance this year: the CIA, the State Department, the FBI, Border Control, Air Force, the Office of Naval Intelligence. There are so many different aspects to, right, national security. We have different research people come in, as well as just federal departments. So there are many opportunities to get involved and to be involved in national security, even if you are not wanting to be a part of a three-letter agency. And now we're going to pass it over to Jeremy.
Yeah, so in the private sector, in terms of early deadlines, really what you're going to see for that is consulting. There are other private sector opportunities available to you, but in terms of early deadlines, really the only one you're going to see again is consulting. So what is consulting? What consultants do is they help organizations diagnose and solve complex issues and problems. One case interview that I often do or scenario I often do is, let's help a city figure out how many cop cars they're going to need, right? Based on their contract with another organization. Or one real life example that a consulting firm helped with was how do we make sure students are more involved and enrolled in their education systems, right? So some of these firms are more strategy based in that they help clients or organizations come to a solution without helping implement the solution, and some are more implementation based. Most of these firms are going to do a mix of both. And consulting, I think, is a good opportunity for public affairs and GPS students because it takes advantage of a lot of the skills you learn in your courses, right? And that problem solving, that research ability, and even some of that kind of economic metrics you have to learn as well. A big resource that the university has just gained access to is management consultant, or consulted, I should say. On there, you can practice case interviewing, and you can look at these different firms and kind of get an overview of what they do and their opportunities and their deadlines as well. So some consulting specialties that you see here, there's management, operations, financial advisory, marketing. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. The management and the operations are kind of helping businesses function better in their daily operations or in their upper level management. Human resources, risk and compliance can also be a good place for students in the LBJ school because it's helping companies follow federal laws. There's IT, and then there's industry specializations like public sector and healthcare. And public sector is one that that we'll focus on here. So here are some firms that do public sector consulting, and you'll see the ones that are starred are ones that have hired master's students for this before. Not all of them all the time are hiring for necessarily master's students or have internships, but I still think it's good to look at these firms, look at their opportunities, follow them on Handshake, follow them on LinkedIn to see if they do, because things change per year, right? Deloitte's a big one that has hired LBJ students in the past, and so is Guidehouse, CGI, and Alvarez and Marcel. The other ones, again, it's kind of on a rolling basis. I could probably say a good amount of these come on campus in the fall pretty often. So we'll look at the next slide to kind of see how you can get involved more with them. So for the deadlines for these, some of them are in July, and then they go into October. The bridge programs, that's late February, early March. Those are for non-MBA masters with less than 3 years of relevant or greater than 3 years of relevant prior business experience after completing a bachelor's degree. So that's for some folks with experience. And then for experienced hires for full-time roles, they recruit year-round. So some ways to find these opportunities is going directly to these organizations' websites. They often have vast career pages and HR pages. These pages will tell you how you can interview properly. A lot of times they will give you the questions ahead of time so you can practice, right? Some of these organizations have lists that you can sign up for, or where you can input your resume and they can kind of match you for opportunities as well. Another place to find these is Handshake. That is the university's job board. On there, you have the jobs tab where you'll see the postings more directly, but I encourage you to follow these organizations on their Handshake profile, that you can get a notification when they post a job, but you can also look at the recruiters that are open to being discussed. And with these consulting opportunities, since there's not always a big focus on the graduate students, I think it's best that you reach out to these recruiters and maybe discuss your unique situation and your unique experience that you have. Another part of Handshake would be the events tab, right? So like I said, these organizations are heavily recruiting here on campus, especially in the fall, and they love recruiting University of Texas students, right? And even if some of the events might be geared towards undergraduates, I would still encourage you to go and talk with these recruiters and get out in front of them, right? Another opportunity is LinkedIn. These companies have heavy presences on LinkedIn, and they will also post jobs on LinkedIn, right? And again, discuss with recruiters your unique situation. If you want to go into consulting, I would encourage you to meet one-on-one with us so we can kind of create an individualized plan based on what your experience is.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about some legislative opportunities and what that looks like. So you might or might not know that coming up in January is the next legislative session here in Texas. Each year we have about 30 to 40 students who intern during the legislative session. And that's total different capacities. Some do part-time, a few hours a week just to kind of get a little bit of experience and exposure, and some work full-time and maybe take a lighter course load, or even not even really any courses at all if you want to be totally immersed in the legislative session. So I just wanted to share that we are having a legislative internship fair. That'll be on November the 14th, and that's in collaboration with the law school and liberal arts. We'll send you so much more information about that, but we get a really good showing. It's a lot of LBJ alumni working in the Capitol who want to recruit LBJ students. So there will be a lot of opportunities through that fair. However, some offices, advocacy organizations, lobby groups, they actually want to get people hired in the fall to train them up and do some prep work before session starts in January. So there are some opportunities that will that you'll hear about before the legislative internship fair. So right now we do have a couple opportunities for fall posted. I think we've sent them out via Canvas, one with the consulting firm, one with Representative Gonzalez, who has a great track record of working with LBJ students, and one with the Democratic Governors Association. I think that's a federal one, and then Powerhouse, Texas. So just some different opportunities that are live right now. We just wanted to make sure that you know about. But we will be doing a lot of prep work in the fall to prepare and help any student who wants to work in the legislative session. If there's any MGPS students on this call and you're like, I don't know if that is for me or whatnot, we always have MGPS students who work in the ledge too. If it's something that has a global component, so maybe the member is working heavily on like immigration policy, that could count toward your internship. But even if it's not, doesn't have that global component and doesn't count toward your official LBJ internship, we still have students who are like, you know what, I want to see firsthand how the state of Texas runs and works. It still could be good experience and exposure for you to do that. So just pitching that out there, that it only happens if you're not from Texas and don't know how the state works, it only happens every 2 years. And so if you are a single degree 2-year like full-time student, this spring will be the only legislative session, unless there's like a special session. But to keep it simple, it'll be the only session. So just getting it on your radar, a lot of this, we keep saying that, but like just so that you know of all the opportunities that are coming your way before things get really, really busy with grad school. So just to hit on some events that we have coming up that are related to the topics that we talked about today. So the National Security Career Fair. That's September 9th. Really, really great opportunity if you are at all interested in security. Following that, we actually have a diplomat in residence, so someone who's a foreign service officer at the State Department. He comes to different schools in Texas and helps us out. So he's going to be doing a couple sessions on September 10th, probably like a coffee chat and an info session to talk about anything State Department hiring there, what to expect, timelines, a little bit on the federal resume as well. While I'm thinking about the State Department, just letting you know, we also have a retired ambassador as a faculty. His name is Larry Andre. He is wonderful and meets with students all the time too. So if State Department is on your radar, there's two folks here that I really recommend you meeting with. That following day, so that's going to be a really busy week, Deloitte is doing their hiring kickoff specifically for LBJ students. So as Jeremy mentioned, some consulting firms recruit with UT in general, and some do targeted events and recruiting with our students. And so Deloitte has a government and public sector practice. And so they are kicking it off with an info session that on September the 11th, and then they will have some more hiring events. They'll do a case interview workshop to prepare you and different ways to connect with their recruiters, as well as the LBJ alumni who are working at Deloitte. Then fast forward a couple more weeks, we always do a career exploration week in the fall. This year, we're going to focus it mostly on legislative opportunities. So different ways that LBJ students and alumni can get involved in the ledge, whether that's working directly with an elected official in the Capitol, or maybe doing lobbying, government relations, or advocacy work. So we'll have a lot of sessions there for people who want to learn more about legislative opportunities. And then, like I mentioned, we have that legislative internship fair on November the 14th. We'll have a lot more events. Those are just kind of some of our bigger ones and ones that were relevant for today. That is all we have. I know that was a lot of content, but just kind of scratching the surface on a lot of things. So we'll open it up if there's areas that y'all want to talk more about, or just have questions for us. Before I stop sharing my screen, if you haven't already, just jot down our email, the lbjcareers@austin.utexas.edu is a great way to get a hold of us. If you have a quick question or want to schedule a meeting, you can do it that way, or we have different links, like a booking link where you can schedule directly with us.
I have a quick question if it's
Yeah, go for it.
First off, thank you all for taking the time to talk to us about this. It's greatly appreciated. If you're an MGPS student and you have a specific interest in a region of the world, but you're not exactly sure what's available, public sector, private sector, research opportunities, whatever it may be, who would be the person to contact and talk to see what's available and further opportunities and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think our office, the three of us, would be a great first step. So what I will say,
Okay.
especially like a very niche, like regional interest, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in every single thing. However, I think we pride ourselves on knowing who to then connect you with. You know, if there's something that we know about that area, hiring trends, organizations, but that's when we would then really rely on the LBJ Alumni Network. Let's see who's working there or at an organization you're interested in, as well as our faculty, and really starting there. But I think we can kind of be that clearinghouse or that triage to say, okay, these are all your interests. Interesting. Let's see who else we can connect you with. Because I mean, job searching, all of it, it's all about connecting with folks, gaining information, seeing who they know. But does that kind of make sense to you, Mitchell?
Yes. I figured it would be somebody in the office. I just didn't know kind of how the process of how you all went about it, but that answered my question. So thank you.
Well, yeah, just shoot us an email if that's the easiest.
We do
Okay.
not have like specialty interests. Like some of your graduate advisors, your academic advisors, they have it split up in certain ways so that they're not overloading everybody and each other with different areas, but you can come to any three of us with any three of your interests, something we're going to do really well with helping you, even if, like Lauren said, we have no idea about the region, is at least helping you organize, like, what is the priority? Is the priority doing advocacy? Is the priority doing like UN work, research, what have you, and connecting you with the right people, alumni-wise, faculty-wise, to get you down that first step.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions?
Lauren, you did so well. You were so clear that no one has anything to say. Like,
I
it
don't
was
know
so
about that.
perfectly clear.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you, Mara. If y'all have anything, you need anything, want to get a head start on some of this, we are here to help you and support you during your time at LBJ. So do not be a stranger. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll see y'all in a month. That's crazy. If y'all have an orientation question too, I'm happy to help with that.
Have a good day.
All right, bye everyone.
Thank y'all so much.